Welcome everyone to this workshop on building backend applications using Node.js and MongoDB, a very famous combination of web technologies used to build high performance and scalable applications, not only for website but also for mobile applications. This tech stack is like very easy to learn, and you can build powerful web applications using that. So without any further ado, let's start this session. So this will be the flow of the session. We will first look into the basic concepts of backend development, what things you need to know before you get your hands dirty in this field. Then we'll move on to creating a simple web application using the knowledge that we gain from the first part. So what is backend development? Firstly, when you're talking about web development, there are majorly two areas. One is front-end development and second is back-end development. In front-end, those things are included like colors, styles, buttons of the website, the things which you see on your website, the things which you see on your screen. While on the back-end development, all those things are written, which control the actions that happen when you perform some activity on them. Like you click a button, you enter some text, and then hit search button. All these things, whatever happens behind the scenes, all those things which the user cannot see, the code of such things is written on the backend side. It mainly consists of a server and a database. The server is where you like write the logic which is running behind the screen, and the database is used to store your data. For example, if you are uh, looking at a college website, then all the details of the students, the faculties, is just stored on a database. And some of the backend languages which are popularly used for backend development is Java, JavaScript, .NET, etc. For this session, we will be using JavaScript as it will be used for writing Node.js applications. So the next thing we need to know is what is a REST API. Before that, what is an API? Well, you can say that API is a messenger between the consumer and the provider. It is like a middle service which is provided by the service provider, and the user can access the services of that provider using the API. To understand it in a simple example, you can take a television. A television in this case is a provider, and you are the consumer. And if you had to change the channels, you had to increase the volume of your TV. You do not go and interact with the circuit. You do not touch the hardware. Instead, you use something known as the remote. The remote here is an API, a simple interface for you to interact with your television. The next term here is REST. So REST stands for representational state transfer. It is mainly an architectural style used by the developers, which helps them to make the APIs, which are written on the server side, easier to use and maintain. It contains some set of rules which can really help to ease up the process. And this architecture really helps to reduce the bandwidth which is used, which in turn increases the performance of websites, the interference. I mean uh, the state transfer from the server to client is included in this REST API. And some of the HTTP request methods which are used are get, post, put, and delete. There are more, but the most used ones are this four. So as I said that in REST API, there is transfer of state from server to client, and that state transfer happens like the format of the data which is being transferred from server to client is mainly in JSON. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It is like a lightweight data exchange format, and the main reason why it is so famous is because it is very easy to read and write. It is completely language independent. which means that just because it has a name JavaScript in it doesn't mean that you can use JSON format only in JavaScript applications. You can also use it on Java or Python applications and other languages as well. So this is the structure. This is the way a JSON object looks like. It stores the data in key value pairs. JSON also has the support for storing strings, numbers, arrays, and you can also nest objects inside a JSON object. So it is a very flexible way of storing data, and that is like one of the main reason why it is used so much in the industry. Uh, Next thing is like CRUD application. We will be building a CRUD application in this session. Now, the main HTTP methods were get, post, put, and delete. And a CRUD application is basically a software which contains all these four basic operations where get corresponds to the read operation, which means you have to fetch some data from the server. Post means you have to uh, like post some data to the server. You want to send some data to the server. Put means if you want to update something. Delete means if you had to delete something. So Node.js, like it's a very popular runtime environment. Why it is used? Because you cannot run JavaScript on IDEs like you do on Java and Python. You can only run JavaScript on the web browsers. Outside the web browsers, you cannot run JavaScript, for which Node.js was developed. It is a runtime environment for developing server-side applications outside of your browser. So each browser has its own JavaScript engine, but Node.js is built on the Google Chrome's engine, which is the V8 engine. Now, Node.js is famously known for using a single-threaded model, which really helps to reduce the memory consumption and resulting into faster applications. And that is why Node.js is used for building high-performance applications. But you cannot build servers just with Node.js. I mean, you can do it, but you will have to write code from the scratch. You will have to configure a lot of things. So for that, we use various frameworks, and one of the popular framework for that is Express.js. It is like a minimal and very flexible application framework, which is used for creating server-side applications. Now, framework is something which provides you a very clear structure of how you should write your code, so that when you're maintaining it, or even if you're beginning to like learning it, it really becomes easy if you're using a framework. Now we will also be using a database in this application, and we will be using MongoDB for this. Now it is like a NoSQL database for building high performance and scalable apps. The reason why MongoDB is used so much with Node.js applications is because the the way JavaScript stores its object is very much like it very much relates to the way MongoDB stores its data. So that is one reason. And it is like it is an open source cross platform software, means you can use it on Mac, Windows, Linux as well. And this data here is stored in document objects, and you can even have nested documents inside them. So it is a very flexible way to store your data. uh, and yeah, that will be used inside this application that we'll be creating. So we have, so that was some of the main things which we needed to know. Now we'll start into building this web application, and here Shankanil will be walking you over through it.
Yeah, so hello everyone. Now let's move on to the part where we actually write some code. And I'm sure you guys are pretty much excited to see a Node.js application, right? So if you had gone through the starter kit that we had shared before this session, you must have installed Node.js on your system. And it is the first step that you need to do before building a Node.js project. The second thing that you would be needing is an IDE. Currently, I'm using VS Code, and we would prefer you all to use the same. It's a very powerful IDE for developers with a lot of great extensions and features that you can use to build your applications. So these two are the primary setups that you need to do. I have shared a GitHub link where you will find the resources that we have used for this session. You can also find the installation links in the document as well. So without wasting much time, let's jump on to writing some code. And if you have installed these things, feel free to code along with me. So the first thing, in order to build a Node.js application, what we need to do is we need to initialize a Node project. Okay, so for that, what we will be doing is I have opened my terminal and I need to type npm init. So npm, it stands for Node Package Manager. It is actually used to install various packages that you would be needing for the project. For example, if you want to include an authentication feature in your project, there is a library package called passport.js. Then there is node mailer for sending mails. So these packages are designed for performing specific tasks in node.js. So if you want to install these packages, you have to use npm. And init stands for initialization. So it means that you are first initializing your node project. So you just need to type this command, and after that it will ask you for some few things, like all of which are not relevant. So it will ask for your package name. These things are not relevant. I'll show you which is important. So yeah, so first thing it will ask is entry point. It is by default index.js. So this is the file from where the actual control flow of your node.js project starts. So by default it is index.js. You can rename it to some other file, let's say for app.js, or you can name it as server.js depending upon your use. So I have named it app.js, and rest of the things I'll just skip by pressing enter. And yes, so I have after this is done, it will initialize a package.json file. So the significance of this file is that whatever packages that you install in your project, it will all get listed down in this package.json. Okay, currently you can see it's empty. It does not show it, but as we move along in this project, you can see whatever packages we install will be listed down in package.json. Now we need to create some files and folders, which is the primary folder structure of our Node.js application. So first thing we need to create is app.js. So, and other folders will be views, and you can also create public, but it's not of much importance currently. So let me explain it to you. So views will contain all your HTML files. So in Node.js, we do not use HTML .html extension. What we use is .ejs. So whatever files, maybe you have an HTML file, you need to rename as index.ejs. So ejs, it stands for embedded JavaScript. So you would be writing embedded JavaScript inside an HTML. So .html extension won't work. You have to replace it with .ejs extension. So currently, let me just delete it. I'll show it to you when it is required. Next, the public folder, it will contain all your CSS, JavaScript, images, videos, all your static assets of your project. So currently we don't have any, but if you have any things like that, it will come under the public folder. So now let's install some packages that for creating our Node project. So the first package that we need to install is Express, and the other one is EJS. Yeah, so installation is done, and you can go to the package.json and you will find that EJS and Express are like listed down as as a dependency. So as I said, whatever package that you install will be listed down under this dependencies section of package.json. So once you have installed the packages, you need to import them in your app.js. So I need to import Express. So yes, I have imported Express. Now I also need to create an Express app. So const app equals to Express. So it has created an Express application. So after I do this, I need to set up certain middlewares that are required for a Node.js project. So this section, we will initialize some middlewares. So first middleware, we'll be specifying that whatever communication between the URLs that we will be doing uh, will be in the form of JSON. So these are some standard templates that you need to fix that are fixed for every Node.js application. You need to use them. So the main idea is, as I said, all the communication will be in JSON format. So these are the two middlewares that you would be needing for your basic Node.js project. So apart after this, what we need to create is we need to create a backend server. So server is the thing that will actually render all your requests, serve your HTML pages, send you back response. So we'll create a server right now. So here we need to, every server, it runs on a specific port. Let's say, for example, port 3000, port 5000. So let's create a port, const port equals to 3000. And after this, the server will listen on this port, right? So we have to specify app.listen port, and we have to, let's say, define a callback function that whenever the server is up and running, we will display a message console.log that server has started. Okay, yeah. So let's say now if you want to run this application, so what you would be needing to do is just in your terminal type node app.js. So you're seeing this message that server has started. It means that your backend server is up and running to for all your requests that you will be making to this server. So after doing these things, let's create our first route. Routes are basically essential to, in order to communicate with your backend server. So first route that we'll be creating is a get route for your homepage. It will be actually, I'm writing it slash, but if you go to the browser, it will be localhost 3000 slash. Okay, so you don't need to write the localhost 3000 part and the things before that. You just need to specify the part that is after it. So app.get slash. So after you do this, you need to define a callback function that it will basically specifying that whenever a user comes to this route, what action should the server do. So the callback function, it accepts two things. One is request, the other is response. uh, so let me tell you the difference between the two things. Request is used for the incoming things that the server is getting. Like for example, if you're submitting a form, if you want to get the details of the form, you will type request.body.whatever parameter to have. So request is used for all the incoming tasks, and response is used for all the outgoing things. So if a user visits this route and you want to send back a response to the user, you will use res.send or res.render. So this is the difference. This is used for incoming, this is for the outgoing thing. So let's send a basic message that whenever the user comes to this route, it will be res.send a basic message that hello user. Okay, so we have defined a basic get route. So now let's um, run this application in our browser. We'll have to first restart our server. Then we need to go back to this browser, type localhost 3000, and you will see that this message, hello user. So this was a basic demo of Node server. Generally, you don't send messages. Sometimes you need to also, display your HTML pages, or yeah, mostly display your HTML pages. So for that, what you need to do is, as I said, all your HTML pages will come under the views category. So under the views folder, let me create a basic HTML file. As I said, it will be replaced with .ejs extension, since everything in Node.js is in embedded JavaScript. So I've named it index.ejs. So let me create a basic HTML template. So let me create an h1 tag like this is the home page. So like what I want to do is whenever the user visits this slash route, I want to render this HTML EJS page. So what I'll be doing is instead of res.send, I'll be using res.render. So this function is used to render any static HTML pages. So I'll type index.ejs. So I'll again restart my server and I'll go back to this page, and you can see it has changed to this is the home page. So I'll again like walk you through the flow of the Node.js project. So first of all, you have to install your packages. You need to require them in app.js. Then you have to initialize these two fixed middlewares and create a backend server. You have to specify a port, and then you have to create your routes and do all the necessary things that you have to do, like you have to render any AJS page, or you have to send a response. So accordingly, the project structure will go. So this was a basic Node.js demo. Now, after this, we'll be making a CRUD application. We'll be integrating a database to our project. So right now, Astel will show you how to create your first database, that is the MongoDB cluster. So over to you, Astel.
So, like I'd request you to open up your MongoDB account. So we will be creating our first cluster here. So for that, what you need to do first, if you have already followed the instructions which were given in the starter kit, then it is fine. But if you weren't able to follow those, I'll be giving you a short demo on that. So no worries. First, let's create a new project, and you can name this project anything. I'll give it Node.js Workshop ACM. And then I'll just keep everything as the default and create this project. So once you create once you create that project, you need to you need to create a database. You need to like do some modifications and all, which I'll be showing you now. First of all, it will be creating a shared cluster. I chose the free tier. You don't need to choose the other ones, and leaving all of these information as default. I'm not changing anything, but if you want, you can change the cluster name. But I'll go with this name itself and click on create cluster. So this creation of cluster will take few minutes. Meanwhile, there are few more modifications we need to do. Mainly, we need to create a user so that we can access this database from our application, and we need to also give our IP address for that same purpose. So first, we will create our database user. For that, let me tell you again. You will be on this page, the databases. Then you need to go here, database access. Then add new database user, and here you can just enter your details, your name and some password, leaving all of these things as default, and add user. The second thing you need to do is add your IP address, and for that just select this option, allow access from anywhere, so you won't have to add your IP addresses again and again. Now, these were the two main things you had to do in the configuration part. The cluster will still take some time to get created. So to save some time, I had already created a cluster before. Like after your cluster gets created, it will look something like this. Now we have to get a Mongo URI such that we can use it to integrate our application with MongoDB. So for that, we will choose this option connect. And here, okay, I'll add the IP address again. So adding the user and the IP address. Now you need to go over to connect, and then you see this pop-up box here. You need to choose the second option, which is connecting through MongoDB native drivers. Here you will get the Mongo URI, which you will be using to access this database from your Node.js server. So from here, Shankhanil will be guiding you.
So, like, guys, do you have any questions till now? If you want to ask, like the basic Node.js project that I just created a few minutes back, it's there in the GitHub repo under the Node.js introduction section. You will find the code that I just created right now. You'll find this code, this repo. There is a second thing that is the boilerplate. So currently we will be like integrating a database with our backend application. So for that, all the front end and the HTML part, we have already like given you the code. So you can find this under the boilerplate section. You can clone this repo and you can code along with me. You'll find this code template and I'll be using the same as well. So as Estelle showed you, you must be having your cluster running by now. So what I'll be doing is, in the meantime, your cluster is being set up. Let's create our first database model. So before that, let me explain to you this boilerplate code that we gave you. So it contains a package.json. It contains 3 dependencies: EJS, Express, and Mongoose. So this is the new one. This will be required to connect your database. So this dependency is listed down here. Apart from that, the app.js, as I said, first of all, you have to import all those packages. Then you have to initialize middlewares. These two middlewares, I think you have seen in the previous project. Uh, these two are the new ones. I'll explain it to you in a while. Then there is connect database code that will help you connect your Node.js application with your MongoDB. The URI that I still showed, you have to replace this thing with your own URI. And then this section will be defining routes. This is the basic route that we have defined right now. And we have our server here. So as I said, these two are two new middlewares that you are seeing. The first one, what it means is that all your static files, that is your CSS, JavaScript, images, everything, it will be rendered from this public directory. So you don't need to write public / whatever thing is that. So you can just write, like, for example, I have a CSS file here that is required for these two forms that I have. So if I, in this EJS file, if I have to import this CSS file, what I'll need to do is just write /CSS and the name of the file. I don't have to write the complete like public / everything. So all these static files will be rendered using this middleware. And the second one is app.set. What it does is, as you can see, last time I wrote res.render home.ejs. So next time, whenever you render your HTML or your EJS pages, you don't need to write the .ejs extension every time. So in order to make you make your work convenient, so we have set this middleware as EJS. So whatever file name that you write under this inside this render function will be considered as a .ejs file. So this is the meaning of these two middlewares. Apart from that, you can see that there are 3 EJS files. Basically, these are plain HTML files, which I'll show you like what they contain. So let's now let us make our first database model. So uh, okay, before that, what we shall do is, let's go to our terminal. And whenever you clone this repo, you won't have a folder that is node modules. These packages won't be installed in your PC directly. So what you have to do is, after you clone the repo, you have to write npm install. And after you type this, all your dependencies that are listed out in package.json will be installed. Sometimes if it does not work, just type it again, it will work again. So as you can see, node modules folder is created with all the dependencies. So now what you can do is, you can type node app.js. So there is one more thing that I would like to tell you is, node app.js, the disadvantage is that whenever you make any change to your app.js or any JavaScript file, you have to constantly restart your server. You have to press Control C, you have to type node like node app.js again. So in order to reduce this work, we have another thing that is known as nodemon. So I have it installed. What you can do is, you can type npm i-g and you can type nodemon. So this will install nodemon in your PC. And what you can, from the next time, when you want to start your Node.js application, you don't need to type node app.js. You can just write nodemon and your server will be started. And suppose if you make any change, let me control, I just saved this app.js right now. You can see that server has started again. Okay, so you don't need to restart your server. It will automatically do it. So now let's has a home page. It has this table structure with all these details that are hard coded right now. Then there is a button which does not work. Currently, it is this is just a static page. So all these buttons won't work right now. We will code the functionality in a while. So first, let's create our database model right now. So what we can do is let's name it as table.js. This will be the name of our model, database model. So for you can see that there are three fields out here. There is the first name, last name, and the branch. Okay, so we will be what we will be doing is first of all we need to import mongoose. Const mongoose equals to require mongoose. So after this, what you need to do is you need to define the schema of your database. So const table schema, and then you need to define a new object that mongoose schema. And after this, you need to define the schema of your database, like what fields do you want, what will be their type. Okay, so let's say we'll have a first name. It will be of type string. The other things will also be last name of type string, and the last one will be branch of type string. You can name it as integer or whatever you like. Currently, string is what will serve our purpose. After you have created your table schema, what you need to do is you need to export it. So we'll use module.exports, uh, and then we'll write mongoose.model. We need to export this model. Then you need to specify the name with which you want to export. Like I like name it as table, and I'll type table schema. So let me explain what it does. So uh, when you want to use this model in some other file, maybe app.js, so what you need to have to do is you'll have to import this table schema, right? So the variable that you will be using in app.js will not be this entire table schema long variable. You'll be just using table, and here what it means that this table schema will be exported by the name of table in your other files. So this is the simple explanation of it. So after you have created your schema, what you need to do is you need to go to app.js, and then you need to connect your application. Currently, as you saw while we were running, it was showing invalid connection string. So we need to fix this error. So just go back to your MongoDB cluster, click on connect, second option, and you'll get your MongoDB URI string. This just copy it, come back to your application. In this section, just paste it. There is one field which will be your password. As you saw when you had created your cluster, you need to specify a username and password. So I'll just replace this thing with my password. You can do it with your own. Okay, so this is the thing that you need to do. Now, once I go back to my terminal and I restart my server, it's already restarted actually. So you can see this thing, database connected. So every time you do, next time you do this, after this connection is done, it will always show database connected. So now let us, what we will do is when you click on this new entry button, a form should be rendered where you will be filling out the details, and those details will be inserted into the database. Currently, if you check my database, it's empty. It does not have anything. Like there is a table schema that is created which has no results. So let's do that. So let's move on to the app.js. And whenever the user clicks on this new entry button, let's in this GitHub repo, I have specified all the routes that we will be using for our application. So this slash route is already done. It's already by default, it will render the home page. When you go to slash new route, a new entry form will be displayed. So let's make that first. So I'll be using app.get / new, and then I'll have to define the callback function. So it will be request response, the callback function, and I'll have to render the new entry form, res.render new underscore entry. So this is the file that is present in views. This is the new entry form that you will be rendering. So just click on save. Now we have addressed this route, but we have not in this home EJS. This button does not have any functionality, so we have to add the functionality to it. So just go to your home.ejs. Let's find the button. Yeah, so this is the button. You can see that there is an anchor tag, but it is currently undefined. So what we will be doing is we'll be now changing it to /new. So this is the same route that I just created. So once I type it as /new and I click on save, go back to my application and I click on new entry, you can see that there is a form that is rendered. So this form also does not have any functionality. I click on submit, it does not do anything. Okay, so we'll now create this functionality. So till this time, when you have been working on your front-end applications, you mostly had created your a form or something like that, but you might not have worked on the backend to insert all these data that you write here into the database. So that is what we'll be doing right now. So for that, what we will be doing is right now, let's say whenever I have filled this form and maybe clicked on submit, I want this data to be displayed in my backend. So uh, for that, let's go back to the form. That is the new entry form. You can see that this form does not have an on submit. It does not have anything specified at what it will do when it is submitted. So we need to specify that thing first. So let's define the action of that form. So after it is submitted, it will go back to the /new route, but this time the method will be a post method. So as Estelle was explaining in the beginning, a post method is used to post the data to the backend. So this time the method will be post. We had just defined a get method. Now we will be defining a post method. Okay, so let's handle it in the backend. App.post, and the route will be /new, and then we have to again define the callback function to request response callback function, and then after this is submitted, we want to see what details were filled in the form, right? So let's do a console.log. Um, all the form data comes under this category, request.body. As I said, request is used for all the incoming things. So the form data is an incoming thing. So it will come under the request, and request.body will give you all the details that the form has submitted. So let me open my terminal. Currently it's empty. Let me go back to the application, refresh it. Let's type some garbage value and click on submit. Come back to the server. You can see that this data is now visible in the backend server. Okay, so if you go back to this part, by doing request.body, you can see the data in the backend. Right now, what you need to do is you need to insert this data into the database. So you have sent your data from the front end to the backend that is displayed here. Now in the backend, what you need to do is insert it in the database. So for that, what we will be doing is for that, the command is for MongoDB. Let's create a new entry in the database. Let's name it as const entry. And what you need to do is you need to create a new table. Before that, you need to, as I said, this table model that we just created, you need to import it in app.js in order to use it. So let's import it const table. Let's name it as, yeah, it will be table only. So then you need to require it. So require, and you need to specify the relative path. So it will be /model /table. So currently I'm in app.js. It will go back to models, and inside this is the table.js. So that's how I have specified this relative path. And then what I'll be doing is here what you can now access this table element that you just created. So let's create a new instance of the table, that is um, table, and then inside it what you will be doing is, as you saw, this table model had three fields: first name, last name, and branch. So let's specify first name as request dot body dot first name. So this object that you saw, like, it's not displayed right now. Okay, yeah. So this object that you just saw that was rendered in the backend, it's a JSON object. So if you want to get this entry, what you need to do is you need to just refer to this key. Okay. So request.body gave you the entire data. Request.body, the first name, will give you the specific first name. So after this, what you need to do for the last name, you need to do the same, request.body dot last name, and for same as for the branch, request.body.branch. So you have created a new instance, new entry in your table. So directly once created, it won't get saved. You have to also save it. So let's make a try catch method. Like, for example, if the save operation is success, then the try block will get executed. If there is any error, we'll have to catch it, and then we have to handle it in the catch. Okay. So now inside the try function, what we'll be doing is we will be creating an asynchronous function that will save this entry. So in order to make this function asynchronous, what we have to do is we have to type async in front of it. So once you do this, you can use the await keyword. You will type await, and then you will type entry dot save. So this will basically save this entry in your database. So until and unless this entry is saved, the control flow will not move on to the next steps. So we have used async and await. Saved, it will be, let's say we want the form to be redirected home. So we'll use res.redirect, and it will be redirected to the home page. And if there is, suppose if there is any error, let's do a console.log, um, console.log, maybe error. So this is what you need to do in order to save the data into your database. So let's check it out. Let's see if our server is running. Yeah. So let's go back to this localhost 3000 route, create a new entry, click maybe John branch is about CSE. So we'll submit this form. It has redirected to back to the home page. Let's check our database. We'll click on refresh, and you can see the first object, that is John Doe and CSE. This data is saved into the database. So you can see that how easy it is to send data from a form to the backend and save the data in the form in the database. It's just these lines of code that you have to use. So we have done the first operation of CRUD, that is the create part. We have created an instance of the data into the database. Now, what you can see is currently in this form, this data is hard coded. What we want is whatever new entry is made, when the control goes back to the home page, only those data should be displayed which are present in the database, right? So we will be performing a reading operation on the database. So you can go back to the GitHub repo and check that we have done these two routes. That is, we have created a new form, and then we have also posted it in order to save the form details into the database. Now we will be rendering all the data from the database. So for that, what we will be doing is, so yeah, so this is the home page, right? So before this home page gets rendered, what I want to do is I will search for all the records that are already present in the database. So for that, what I will be doing is, the database name is table, so I'll use table.find. Then there will be there will be a callback function which will have two things. One is error, the other is details. So this callback function, the error, it means that if there is any error that has occurred, and details object will store the details of all the objects that are present in the database. So let's do it. Let's type if there is an error. Let's console.log error. And suppose if there is no error, what we will be doing is we'll be rendering the this home page. Let's copy it from here and paste it here. So what I want is I want this home page to be rendered. Additionally, this details object should be sent to this home page, because the details object will contain all these entries in that is present in the database, right? So I'll be specifying another field that is details. So this is how you say, read data from the MongoDB database and send the data back to your HTML pages. So now if I go to this home page and suppose after this body tag, let me write an embedded JavaScript. Let's type dot console.log. Um, Here I can have the access to this details element because I have sent this with this home page, so I have access to it here as well. So I'll type details, and so after every EJS expression will have a starting tag as well as ending tag. So this is a JavaScript. So this thing will not get rendered into your HTML, but it will get executed. If you type equals to, then it gets like printed. But if you don't specify that, it just gets executed. Okay. So I'll do this details. So now let's go back to this home page. Let's click on refresh and come back here. Let's check our server. You can see the details data is displayed. That means this details object will contain all the objects that are present in the database, right? So now what I want to do is I want to make this table dynamic. That means only those records that are present in this database should be displayed, right? So for that, what I'll be doing is I'll be removing this hard-coded part that is present here. Yeah, after this table body. So all these details that you can see is present under the table body tag. So I'll just remove it. Um, yeah, I've removed it. And if I refresh it, you will see that it's empty. Now, what we will be doing is we'll use EJS templating for rendering, embedded JavaScript and dynamic JavaScript. Okay, so I won't type the template because it's a bit long. I'll just copy paste it and I'll explain it to you what it's working. So this is the template that you need to write. Okay, so let me explain it to you. Once you have rendered this home page, it will have the details object, right? You have sent this details object of all the entries in the database to this home page. You have the access to the details object. Next, what you're doing is you can see here the details object is an array, right? So you can check that there are two brackets out here, and then these are the individual entries into the of the array. So the details object is an array, so you need to iterate over each entry. So that's why details.forEach is used. And then there will be two things that you will be getting. One is the index. Index, it starts from 0, 1, 2, 3. All the records will have a fixed index. And this entry will store the data that is present in that index. Like, for example, we have only one entry, which is at 0 index. So entry will store this object. So after that, what you're doing is for every entry, you are creating a new table row. Okay, so every time there is a new thing that is added in the database, you just have to like add a new row, and then this row will have this three like table data. Okay, so the first table data will be the index. As I said, it starts from 0, so we have done index plus 1 in order to display start from the indexing from 1. And then we have used entry object, and entry dot first name will give me this first name, so it will give me John. And entry dot last name will also give me the corresponding values of this key value pair. And that's where JSON concept comes, right? So this is a JSON object. You can write entry dot first name. It will give you the value that is present with corresponding to this key. So that is how you need to write. And all these expressions, as you saw, these are embedded JavaScript EJS templating, what we call. There is a difference, as I said. Equal to, it means that this data will be displayed in this TD tag. But if you don't specify the equal to, it just means that it will get executed. So currently I'm specifying this equal to. That means that these things needs to be displayed in the table, right? So I'll just click on save. I'll remove this console.log because it's not required. And then I'll move back to this page, click on refresh, and you can see your first entry is insert, like table entry is done. So you can also create new entries, maybe new entries, so that I'll show you that this thing is working. So you can see that 2 records now that are created. So this is how you perform the read operation. That is the second operation in CRUD. Create is done, read is this one. You have read all the data that is present in this database, and you have displayed it in the HTML. Okay. So now what you need to do is, suppose if you want to update a particular record. Okay, so for example, if I want to change this entry, so I'll be clicking on the edit button, go back to the edit form, and then click on save, and this entry should be modified. So for that, we need to perform an update operation on MongoDB. So before that, what I want you all to understand is that every entry in MongoDB has a unique ID. As you can see, this entry has a unique ID as well as this one. So if I have to update a particular entry, what I will be using is this specific ID. Where first of all, I'll be searching in the database for this ID that I want to update. And after I get that entry, I'll be modifying it and I'll be saving it. So this ID concept is very important when you have to modify the data that is present in your database. So let's see the next route that we have to do, that is the edit route. So this is the route that we need to make. So /edit means it will go back the edit page, and we have used underscore colon ID. The meaning of this is that let me click on this edit button. You can see that it goes to /edit slash the ID of the particular entry. If I click on the second edit button, this ID changes. So the term that is after this edit field is something which is dynamic, right? You cannot fix a specific ID for a particular record. So all those dynamic things, you have to specify it in this manner. So this thing is very important. You have to write /edit colon ID. Okay. So after so we'll be handling this route now. Currently it is not working. So let's handle this route. So let's go back to our app.js and create an update route. So the update route format is app.get. Then there will be /edit, and then there is a colon ID. Again, there will be a callback function, request response. We'll define this function. Now, what you need to do is you need to get this ID from this URL. As you can see, if I click on this edit button, the ID is present in the URL, right? So you need to extract it from the URL. So what I'll be doing is maybe console.log request.params dot ID. So this thing will give me this particular ID. Suppose, for example, this variable is, let's say, XYZ. So it will be request.params.xyz. So it will change accordingly. Okay. So let's see if we can extract the ID from the URL. So let's click on our server. Yep. And let's refresh this page. We should see the ID here. You can see this ID is there. Let's refresh the other page. This one, let's refresh it. You can see this is the second ID. So you are able to extract the IDs of the specific entries in the database, right? So the benefit that you get now is you have this ID, whatever edit like field that you want to like, maybe you want to edit this entry, you can click on this. You will go back to the edit route. You have this ID. you can search for that ID in this database. So once you get that ID, that means the database will get to know that this is the field that needs to be modified, right? So that is what we are going to do. So let's do that first. So as you can see, this edit route is not handled. Let's handle this edit route. So uh, let's type as res.render. For now, let's type res.render edit underscore form. Okay, so edit underscore entry, sorry, the name is different. Okay, so now if I refresh this page, click on edit, you can see that edit details form is displayed. Okay, so now what I want is when I click on edit, this form should be pre-filled with the data that I have this with this entry. So if I click on edit button, the first name should have John, the second last name should have Doe, and the other one should have CSE branch. So we want to pre-feed this form with the data that is already present in this table, right? So for that, what we will be doing is we will be using the concept that was used in this home page. Okay, just as you rendered these things in this home page, we will be using the same concept. So in the home page, what we were doing is we were finding all the records in the database, right? So all the, maybe there are 2 records, so all the 2 records are displayed. Right now what we want is we want to find a specific entry in the database, right? Not all the things. So for that, what we will be doing is we will be using another function, that is table dot find by id. So it will have 2 parameters. First one will be the ID. Okay, so this ID, what we can do is we can write request dot params dot ID. So we are finding the table, the record with the help of this ID, and then there will be a callback function as usual. So let's say error and details. So if there is any error, it will be handled with this error but variable. And if there is no error, if the like MongoDB is able to find the specific entry with the help of this ID, then those contents of this entry will come under this details field. Okay, so let's type the remaining code. If there is an error, console.log error, and if there is no error, let's say we will do console.log details. Okay, so let's go back to our application. Let's click on edit and let's check our terminal. You can see that John Doe CSC is displayed. This was the field. We clicked on edit and this one field is displayed. So if I click on the other edit button, so it goes to this page, you can see JSON bond is displayed. So you are able to find specific entries in the data of the database by using this find by ID method and this URL ID, right? So now the next step, what we need to do is we need to render the edit form along with the details of uh, like details of the object. So this details object will hold the data that you want to modify. So what we will be doing this time is we will be rendering the edit form, and again, just like the home page, I'll show you, I had sent the details object to the home page so that I have access to this content in the EJS page, right? So I'll do the same thing here in the edit entry form. I'll type details object. So the server is restarted. So let's go back. Okay, let's go back to the page. You will see that there is no error right now. Now I want to see that this edit details EJS page has got the details or not of the edit of the entry that I want to modify. So let's go back to the edit entry page. After this body tag, let's type an embedded JavaScript console.log, console.log, and let's type details. Since we had sent the details object to this page, we must have access to it here as well. So let me do it here. Click on refresh. You can see that the details is displayed. That means that you are being able to send a specific record. Like you click on this button, the backend is the MongoDB is able to find this particular entry in the database, and it is being able to send back to this form, right? So what I want is this fields that you can see, first name, last name, and branch, which are empty right now. I want it to be filled with this, with these details, right? So for that, what we will be doing is we'll use simple HTML concept that this is the input tag of the first name. So if you know basics of HTML, you must be knowing that there is a property, the value property, and whatever, maybe let's say ABCD, whatever we type here will get displayed in that form. So let's refresh it. You can see that this ABCD is pre-fed in this form, right? So this value property is what we are going to use now. Along with it, we'll be using EJS. So as you know that EJS expression starts like this. We'll type, and then you need to type the equal to button, because operator, because we want to display this value, right? If you ignore this, then it will just get simply executed and nothing will be rendered. So if you are using EJS, then you have to specify this equal to operator, and then you need to specify this details object and what field of the details object you want. So this is the first name field. So I would want the first name value, right? So it's a JavaScript object, and any JavaScript object you can reference it by using key value pairs. So details.first name will give me the value. So let's type details.first name, and then we have to close it as come under two brackets, quotations. So I have to write the EJS inside those quotations. Sorry for that. So I'll type details dot first name. So I'll have to close it. So this time it will work. Yeah. So as you can see, every property is enclosed within the quotes. So you have to type the quotes, and then inside it you have to write this EJS expression. So let me click on save, go back to our page, click on refresh. You can see John. Let me go back to our application. If I click on edit, you can see JSON. Similarly, the other fields will also fill it up. So value, let's copy it. Let's paste it here. And the first name is here. Let's type last name. This will be the branch. So we have filled these three values. Click on refresh. You can see that all the fields are now displayed. So I hope you have got the concept. We are using this edit/id route. So after this route is sent to the backend, it finds the particular entry with respect to this ID, and after it finds it, it sends that entry to the front end, that is this HTML page, and it displays it here. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to click on submitting. We need to save whatever changes, maybe change it to some other name like ABCD. If I click submit, and then it should be replaced. So we need to type the code, the backend part for this. Okay. So you can see the method is a post method, edits :id, that will be used to update a specific record. So we'll be now creating this, we'll be handling this request in the backend. So on submitting this form, what it will do is it will form actions should be /edit slash this, we have to specify the ID of the field that we want to edit, right? So this action, it will contain the ID of the entry that we want to edit. So this is the ID that we can get. So details. So let's type the EJS expression again. So it will be details dot underscore ID. So this underscore ID will give me the specific ID, right? So I'll replace it like this and click on save. So this on submitting this form will send its details to this route, And the method that we will be using is a post method, because we want the details of this form to we want to send this details of this form to the backend, right? So we want to use the post method. So now let's handle this route in the backend. So what we will be doing is, again, similarly, as we wrote these things, we'll write app.post, and the route is slash edit slash underscore ID, colon ID, because every ID is different. So we have to use this notation. There will be two things, request and response. This is the callback function. So now what we will be doing is we'll be modifying this entry, whatever ID entry that we have, that we want to edit, with the new fields that the user has specified, like maybe change John to Jason. So this change that the user made is present in this form data. So this form data, when it is submitted, it will come back to this route, and we want to save these details corresponding to this entry in the table, right? So for that, the function is table dot find by ID and update. So what it will do is, first of all, it will find this particular uh, like the entry in the database with corresponding to this ID, and then it will update it with respect to the new data that the user has submitted. So what we will be doing now is, it accepts this function. It accepts three parameters. First will be request dot params dot ID. That is, we are extracting this ID from the URL. Um, then we have this table will find the particular entry with respect to this ID. Then we have to update it with respect to the details of the form. So details of the form we can get by using request.body. So all the fields that the user has modified will come under request.body. So automatically this function, whatever details the user has specified, it will update it. Then it will have, as usual, a callback function, error, and let's say details of the modified content. So this function will automatically find the entry with respect to the ID and update it. So we don't need to do anything else. We'll just write if there is any error. We'll use console.log that there is an error. And if there is no error, we'll just redirect the user to the home page, res.redirect slash. So this is the home page route. So if there is no error, the user will be redirected to this page. So click on save. Next, let's go back to the home page. Okay, so let's edit this entry first. So it's John Doe CSE. Let's change the name to JSON. Let's change the branch to EC and click on submit. Cannot read properly. Okay, so there is an error. Let's debug it. In app.js line 69, there is an error. So let's find it. Cannot find the ID. So yeah, sorry, I used res. So as I said, res is used for outgoing things, but this ID is an incoming thing, right? So I have to use request. So let's change it to request. So click on save. Now let's get back to this page. Let me go back to the home page. Yeah, click on this. Let me edit it and click on submit. You can see that these fields are now modified. So this is how, this is the third operation in CRUD, that is the update operation. If you want to update any operation, like any record, then you can do using this update method that I just showed you, find by update ID and update. So I hope if you have been following so far, you are understanding the things. There is one last method that we need to do, that is just a simple method, that is a delete method. Currently it is not functioning, so delete method is just the easiest one. So similar to the edit one, you can see that it goes to slash edit slash the ID of the entry that you want to edit. Similarly for the delete also, it goes to slash delete slash the ID of the entry that you want to delete. Okay, So let's use the same concept that I just showed you for the update operation. So you can see in the edit in the home page that this delete route is already specified. So let's handle it in the backend. Let's type app.get /delete slash colon ID, and then there will be a request and then a response callback function. And just as we use the method of MongoDB find by ID and update, this time we will be using another method, that is find by ID and delete. So table dot find by ID. So it auto suggests me some functions, that is find by ID and delete. So I'll click on this. I'll then specify the ID of the entry that I want to delete. So let me use this ID like request.params.id. And once the MongoDB finds this particular entry, then it will go back to the callback function. If there is, to check if there is an error or not. This error, it will specify if there is an error. This details will contain the details of the entry that you want to delete. So just as like next thing, what you need to do is simply you need to copy paste this thing, because this function of MongoDB will do all the job of deleting. Okay, you don't need to do anything else. So it will find the entry with respect to this ID, delete it if there is no error, and if there is any error, it will just print if that there is an error. Okay, just so let's click on save. Yeah, so let's go back to this home page. Now if I click on delete, you can see that that entry is deleted. Let's click on this delete, that this entry is also deleted. You can also go back to your MongoDB atlas and check if your database is actually empty or not. So you can see that it is actually empty. So we have performed the 4 operations, that is create, read, update, and delete. And these are the routes that I have used in this application. And this code that I wrote, after this session, we will push it to the GitHub repo. So if you were not able to follow anything, you can just go back to this code. You can clone the repo. You can try it out. And I would say that, suppose if you want to try out as an exercise, what you can do is, in order to, this will help to improve your concept, like how the control flow of everything is working. So what you can do is, currently this table has 3 fields: first name, last name, and branch. So what you can do is, you can insert a new field, that is your maybe admission number. So you can insert a new field here, and then accordingly this edit and new entry forms will require another text field, right? So we have 3 things: first name, last name, and branch. So you will need to create a new text box for your admission number. So after that, what you have to do is, whenever you want to save the new entry, you have to specify a new field, that is your admission number. You have to get your admission number with respect to the request.body option, and then you need to save it. And this is an exercise that you can try it out, so that you can get an idea of how the control flow in MongoDB is working, and basically get an idea, a better understanding of this Node.js application. So I hope you could follow whatever we showed you.